Hello, hello, hello. So today we're going to talk about is
Recording in progress.
how to structure your business with this bookkeeping business plan example. So most bookkeeping businesses fail because they don't plan ahead. Now today I'm going to walk you through a simple but effective planning style you can use for your business. Now, for me, when I started in 2015 with my accounting firm, I wasn't being very strategic. Everything was kind of like run and gun. It was like, okay, I need to go and get clients now. I need to go and do this. I need to go run. I need to go get things moving, right? So I would try things like networking. I would do a bunch of cold calls, and everything would just be like, I would even do door knocking. So I would go down the main street of my local town. I would just be like, hey, I do this. Here's a flyer of like a packet of different things, services I offer. Could we maybe talk about me working with you? And sometimes they say yes. Most times they say no. But it didn't really bother me because it didn't bother me when they said no. It bothered me at the end of the week when I didn't make any progress. That's the time that I was really like, oh man, it doesn't feel like anything is moving for me. And yeah, that was it. Wasn't that was like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain because it was, for me, it was a little bit frustrating, but it was more scary that the goals that I had set out for myself were unattainable. Right, I wanted to be able to work for myself full time. I wanted to be able to right now I live in Michigan, and there are these, it's like every couple of winters or so, it's not as bad as what it used to be, but every couple of winters, these terrible winters where it's so much snow on the ground, so much ice, it gets to be 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below if you're kind of the wind chill, and I just wouldn't want to have to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning to go drive on a commute in a blizzard, right? And yeah, I don't know. Some people could say it's kind of selfish why I wanted to, be successful and make things work. But at the end of the day, it's what my reasons were, right? Now, plan's essential because if you don't plan, you don't really understand how far away from success you actually are. Now, a bookkeeping plan should include, okay, what's your pricing style? What type of market clientele you're gonna go after? You're gonna go after really small people. You're gonna go after big people. What is a style of marketing that works well with your personality and something that you can be consistent with? How will you do your consultation calls? Are you gonna be a really kind of smooth closer? Are you gonna be a closer that has to use a lot of hype and excitement? Are you gonna be a closer that makes people think about it for 6 months and then comes back to you? How are you going to run your business? Are you going to be just a solopreneur? You're going to have staff eventually? Are you going to do a lot of automations or do everything manual? So we have to think about all these different things in order to kind of make it work for us. Cool. So let's go and attack this thing. Also, if you want some help growing your business, maybe you've been trying, but it's just not quite going the way you'd hope. Or maybe you're in the planning stages and you're like, hey, I want to make a plan, but I just don't know what I don't know, and I want some help. If either of those are you, either you want help or things just aren't going the way you want, go ahead and click the link inside the description above or below the video to book a call with myself to see if I can help you inside of our mentorship program. Okay, let's attack this thing. So, number one, when it comes to your business overview, right, I'm always thinking about what is my mission and what is my goal. Okay, so this is actually really critical, and I kind of chuckle sometimes because oftentimes people are they want to make these mission statements and value statements. At this stage of business, don't get esoteric, right? Just what do you want out of life? For me, the mission for me was to be able to quit my job, and it was to be able to go and work with 30 businesses. That was my goal because at that time I figured that if I had clients that were paying me $200 a month, and I got 30 clients that were making $6,000 a month. That would have been enough to cover all my bills and stuff at the time. So that's number one. Now, what are my goals, right? So maybe you have a goal of $3,000 a month, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month. Most people will be good if you can get to anywhere between 10 to 15,000 per month. That's really kind of a number where if you can save enough money each year. Really, if you can save an extra $100,000 a year over whatever your existing expenses are, that's really a good place to be because then you can really start beating inflation. Then when you start investing, the money just kind of compounds. pretty soon you're making 6 figures a year without actually having to do any work, right? And at that stage, like work becomes, sorry, I dropped something. Work becomes very fun at that stage because you're doing it because you want to, not because you have to. Like, for example, I do these YouTube videos not because I have to, because I really enjoy doing them, right? Or else I would not have made 1,500 videos. I would probably do the bare minimum if I needed to do it, right? But since I don't have to do them, it's like, okay, I'm choosing. This is fun. I can make a bunch of them. I have like, I literally have a screen of like the next like 300 videos that I want to make, and I'm like figuring out, okay, do this one, this one, this one, then this order, then this order, then this order, and it's really fun, you know? Next thing you need to know, like, what actually makes your firm unique. So it could be a mixture of your life experiences. For example, I have a student on our program, and his background is both accounting and IT, right? Information technology. Now, the reason why that's cool is because he can offer multiple services within IT and within accounting, right? And then his version of CFO services is a little bit unique because it's not just from a financial perspective, it's also from like a technology perspective, right? So he's balancing what's the best technology and like the safest technology to get, as well as how should they further utilize their other resources to be able to kind of grow the business faster. So it's really kind of a unique mix. Or you could maybe have a background in maybe your background is in like you were like a psychotherapist for a while, right? And then you can go and get a niche within psychotherapy, right? Because a lot of therapists would want to work with other therapists, right? I have a student that's like that actually in our program too. She does pretty well. I have a student who is a life coach. Well, he's still a life coach, like because he just enjoys it, right? He does life coaching, stock trading, and he has his accounting business. So it's kind of cool, and he's an author technically. So he has like I think he's like 2 or 3 books. So he mixes all those together, so he can use his life story from his book to go and get people who are in business, who are interested in like the stuff he talks about in the story, to want to work with them. Then he can also do life coaching on top of it, and like when he does his accounting and bookkeeping services, he also includes a little bit of like consulting and just like life philosophy, and it's actually really really cool because it gives like the business owners a different perspective into like how to think, right? Because like if you can understand how to think from a different perspective, your life can improve drastically. Cool. Excuse me. Next thing is going to be who is your target market and your ideal clients, right? So you're always going to be thinking about like who are your ideal clients. So you could go after freelancers, small businesses, startups, mid-sized companies, large companies. For me, I'm always looking at, who can afford to pay my price point. So like the company size that we're looking for generally is going to be between like 600,000 to about 5 million. It's really kind of a good safe range. You could go up to like 6 or 7 million, but like once it gets past a certain size, they are more likely to want to get this thing in house. Now this is actually interesting. Some people are like, "Well, Bryce, no one's gonna want to pay like $5,000 a month for bookkeeping services. They just get the person in house." It's like, well, not really. I mean, because like, okay, so $5,000 a month is like, it's really just above like a couple entry positions, right? Like in corporate, right? So it's like it's not that much money. If you talk about like someone trying to pay like 10 grand, 15 grand a month, okay, I would say yeah, that's probably an in-house position. But we're not. It's large to you. It's not large to the size company that's going to pay that to you, right? Everything is going to be proportional. I was talking to a student yesterday, and she's like going after this person to go get this like cleanup project, and it's like it's the guy has like I think 3 companies. And she's like, well, what if I have to like, what if I have to charge this guy like, $20,000-$30,000, man? Like that's gonna be a lot of money. It's like, well, if you're charging a cleanup the way we teach how to price it, and you're pricing it for $30,000, it's gonna be a lot for you, but it's not gonna be a lot for the other person, right? 'Cause it's all proportional. It's all relative to what their business is doing, right? So if a business is doing $3 million a year, them doing $30,000 or $40,000 for a cleanup is not that far out of their range, depending on like the company. If they're like a super micro profit margin company, okay, I would say something a little bit different. But assuming the company has healthy margins in between like 15 to like 35%, then it can generally afford to pay you within like a relative range. Cool. We can talk about how to attract them in a minute, but another thing too is like you have to also understand not just who do you want to go after, but also who do you not want to go after. So for me, I'm looking to avoid companies that are in like the pre-revenue phase. I'm looking to avoid companies that are solopreneurs, And now there are always exceptions to these rules, right? Like there will come a time to when, in the beginning, you want to kind of. It depends. If you're very young, just out of college, it's okay for you to go and get like smaller clients because a lot of those smaller clients over the next 5, 10, 15 years will become bigger clients, right? And since they're sticking with you, they're going to keep paying you more and more and more. If you're like in your early, mid, late 50s and you only have probably about 5, 10 more years that you want to work, you want to go after bigger clients, especially, because you're probably getting paid, higher money than what you ever had before in corporate. Your bills might be a little bit higher than someone who's just getting started, so you don't really have quite as much room for error or for growth in terms of growing an existing client as like someone who's like, 25 years old will have, right? So that's different kind of models depending where you are. I tend to not like solopreneurs or freelancers, right? My rule is I want them to already have contractors before they ever work with me, right? Because I want to make sure they're actually spending money. They're used to spending money to grow their business. Next thing, your pricing revenue model. So just kind of following up with the last slide, right? You have to really understand, are you going to be a high ticket kind of person or a low ticket type of person, right? So this is important because depending on how much you want to be charging on average, that's going to determine the type of marketing you use, right? If it doesn't matter the size of the company who's going to be working with you, and you can get anybody, all marketing is going to work. You can market on Facebook, you can market on Instagram, Twitter. You could spam message hundreds of thousands of people, and if you're the lowest price point, you're going to get those clients, right? But it's going to take you a lot more. It's going to be more expensive on the management side because you're eventually going to have to hire people to do it a lot faster than if you had let's say you had 10 clients each paying you we'll say $1,000 a month. That's going to be a lot easier to manage just from a client relationship perspective, a workload perspective, than having, 10 times 1,000, 10,000 versus, what is that? 100 times 100 is 10,000, I believe, right? Yeah, it's 10,000. Versus 100 clients, right? Because let's say that each one of your clients wants to have a client meeting, right? Let's say it's once a month. You have 100 hours worth of client meetings versus if it's once a month for the 10 high ticket clients, it's only 10 hours worth of those meetings. Now let's say the $100 ones, and usually the ones that are a little bit, cheaper, they tend to need the most support. And they want to have the most meetings because they're always on the brink of destruction, right? They're new. If they're a newer business and they've never they have not hit the stabilization kind of point in their business, every week is potentially them going out of business, right? So they're gonna want to talk about it, and you almost become their business counselor, which is not a bad thing, but you have to kind of be aware of it if you're gonna be putting yourself in that kind of position. So. Yeah, it's there's pros and cons of everything, right? And if you have to do a bunch of client meetings, let's say they want one meeting every week. That's 100 hours of meetings per week. That's crazy. You're probably not gonna be able to do that all yourself, right? Or keep growing the business, or actually do the client work on top of that. So you're gonna need to hire a team of staff accountants sooner rather than later, right? So it's gonna be more expensive. So yeah, and you're gonna need different practice management software. It's just everything is more expensive the more clients you have. So it's better to have less clients that pay you a lot, but then also just kind of understand where you are inside of your business life cycle. If you're getting ready to sell your business, then you'd want to maybe take some of those bigger clients and add a bunch of smaller clients around it, so that because the business becomes more safe. But if you're just running it for yourself, just for the cash flow, keep it small, keep it lean, keep it easy. Cool. Next thing, subscription versus per project pricing. So this is actually a stylistic option. Do you want to be a person that only does monthly work, or do you want to do only cleanup projects, or do you want to do a little bit of both? I would really advise doing a little bit of both because you can go and get the cash influx with the cleanup projects, but you can have that consistency of the subscriptions, right? So we talk about subscriptions, we talk about the monthly work. Now, if I had to choose one, I would if I'm starting out, I would probably choose a subscription-based model. If I already have a lot of cash in the bank and I'm just using this to either be a side hustle or pay for vacations or pay for just certain things that I need, I might do a per cleanup project basis instead. The reason why is because the subscription model and the monthly model is generally about really bringing on enough revenue to cover your bills, right? So the monthly model gives you freedom. That's what I would really be thinking in my mind. Monthly gives freedom and escape velocity. The velocity to be able to escape your job and be able to like support your bills for as long as you need to. The project base is more what you use if you want to like boost your investment account, or if you want to go on a vacation, or if you want to go and buy something expensive for your family, right? Put a down payment on a car, etc., etc. Now, again, it all depends on like where you are in your life, right? So when I started, I needed that monthly recurring revenue, right? And then once I got my monthly recurring revenue to be like 3 to 4 times whatever my bills were, that's when I started doing like the more per project stuff. That's one reason why I started the mentorship program, because it's more of like a project pricing, right? It's like a package pricing, so I can scale it to kind of meet whatever like other like stretch goals I have, savings plans I have, or just anything that I really want to, in order to kind of like, get to the place that I want to be in life, right? And, I could make a lot more money if I did not cap the program. Like, we do cap our mentorship program at about 10 people per month, so we don't really accept more than 10 people at any like given month. And that way it just makes it easier for us to get like results. We can kind of still do the one-on-one support as well as the small group support, and it just makes it easier for us to be able to like kind of give more impact to the people that do our program. Cool. Also, when it comes to your pricing, you have to really understand like what do you want? Like, how much money do you want to be making? Or your person wants to make like $3,000 a month and just have it on the side. Your person wants to make like 5, 10, 15, 20 grand per month. Really understand like what you need is going to determine what size clients you get, right? The larger the income goal, generally the larger the clients you need to do in order to get there, right? So, next thing, marketing and sales plans. So really understanding how to generate leads and book calls. Are you going to be using paid ads or organics? All organic means is like free methodologies to grow. Free or like low cost methodologies. So that's really important, right? Because like if you're just getting started, you have no like sales experience, no marketing experience, you probably should not do paid advertising. It's going to be too expensive. There's too much of a learning curve for the average person. Like if you're in someone's mentorship program, okay, I would say you could maybe try paid ads. Or if it's under like guidance of someone that knows what they're doing, okay, then you try paid ads. But I would not hire a marketing agency from out the gate, because generally your sales skills are not going to be able to close the leads that the marketing agency brings on a consistent basis. Now, I know what you're thinking is like, well, Bryce, if they give me bad leads, of course I can't close. Not necessarily. So when it comes to advertising, the lead quality will naturally be lower than if they come to you organically. So if someone is like following you on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, and they reach out to you and say, hey, I'm interested in your services, that person is going to buy like 8 times out of 10. Unless you like your price is 1,000 times more expensive, or unless like you're just really, really, really bad at sales. Give me one second, let me put my nose. Oh, my nose. Never really runs, but I say it is. So that's gonna be like critical, right? Really understanding like that. Now, the lead quality is gonna be lower, so you have to be better at sales. And like, yeah, the problem with the marketing agencies, it becomes like kind of a blame game. It's like, okay, you got me 2 calls, they didn't close. No, your leads are bad. Like, well, you just can't close. Or they go all this time and like they don't get you any calls booked. And like, well, your company's just not attractive for people. And it's always like this blame game. So I would not spend money on like a marketing agency. You don't need a marketing agency at all for like the size most of us are trying to play in the bookkeeping game. If you're just trying to get to like 10K per month, 15K per month, you don't need a marketing agency. If you're trying to get to like 100K per month or $1 million, and you're using ads, okay, well, you might need to get a marketing agency eventually, right? But at the smaller scale, just don't do it, because like all these marketing agencies nowadays are anywhere between like $500 to like $3,000 a month for like the management fee on top of the advertising. So it just makes it so hard for you to be able to actually make your money. So only people that make money are the ad platforms that you're spending on and the marketing agency. You're not making money. So that's number one, right? And then what I would be focused on is like picking a marketing method that will allow you to be able to be consistent for at least 6 months to a year. Okay, most people's time frames for really growing a business is not correct, because most people are focused on get one client. So they take 3 months to get one client. And then from there, once they get one client, they're like, okay, the floodgates should be opening now. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You should have something where over time, it should get easier for you to actually go and like get people to work with you. Should be way easier, right? Because the longer that someone knows you exist, the longer someone is following you, the more money they're gonna be willing to pay you the first time they meet you. So your job is to learn how to stay in front of people. Your job is to learn how to either message and follow up with people every so often, or to start learning how to make video content or written content. Scrap out the video because I know a lot of people don't like video, but you have to be able to know how to make content that gets people to be like, okay, cool, I'm interested potentially in learning more about what you do and reach out to you. That can be a blog, that can be written, that can be social media posts, doesn't really matter. But if you could do videos, oh dude, that's gonna knock it out the park. You'd be killing it. If you're nervous about videos, just don't do videos, And again, with our students in our program, we do make it easier for you not to necessarily have to use content in more like the traditional way. So it does make it easier, but like if you're just doing, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're not inside of our marketing program. So I'm just kind of giving you like an understanding of like what you can do to like be successful, right? So yeah, that's the main thing. Just really understanding, like you can do networking, you can do online posting, you can do Craigslist, you can do Upwork, you can do LinkedIn, Instagram, Thumbtack, Yelp, a million different ways to get clients, and like they all work. It's just based on like, they all work to a certain degree. They all have their pros and cons, right? So some of them are tough because all your competition is too low price and you're just going to be competing like based on price. Sometimes the platform that you're using only gets low value clients that come to it, right? So again, it's a price thing. Sometimes what can happen is that it gets people that are very, very indecisive to come to you. So you have to do a bunch of follow-up after the sales call, and you have to like really, be tight when it comes to sales and be very precise when you're doing your sales, so you can get people to actually want to like pay you the money in the shortest time period possible. That's another thing to just be aware of, Next thing too is like you could have a platform where you get people on the phone very easily, but the people are very unqualified, and you can't tell they're qualified unless you either have a form that tells people like tell you how much they're making, or you can see the revenue ahead of time, which is where like LinkedIn and social media generally does better. Cool. Next thing in your planning is really operations and growth strategies. So kind of having a predetermined spot to where you're going to be hiring a virtual assistant or a team, okay? That's very important because a lot of people, what happens is they hire based on feeling cool and trying to prove themselves that they have a successful business. I know that sounds weird. Like, what do you mean, Bryce? Like, they're trying to feel cool that they have a successful business. Now, oftentimes, when many of us are starting a business, we're going to go through a lot of failures, a lot of challenges. It's just not going to work out the way that we think, the way that we hope, the thing we want it to. Okay? That's normal. But what happens is you kind of develop this chip on your shoulder where it's like, I'm going to prove myself that I'm better and I'm doing really well and I'm good, right? Because people don't believe in me and XYZ is happening. People say I can't run a business or I'm not going to be able to do XYZ. All right, cool, right? So what happens is as soon as you start making some money, you start hiring a bunch of virtual assistants. You're like, oh, I have assistants. I have people underneath me. I have teammates. I have contractors. And then you go and tell one person, they're like, oh, you have contractors. Nice. You must be doing really well. And you're like, okay, so every time I say I have one contractor, people assume I'm making XYZ amount of money. So if I have two contractors, people assume I'm making even more money. Then I have three contractors, and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. I know, some of you might be like, I don't really care about that. I don't have any ego. Okay. I'm not necessarily saying that has to be you, but I'm saying it does happen a very, very, very large amount. So, learning to really hire when you need to, or having a pre-planned point to where you do hire is going to be important. So like for most people, what I would probably do is like, how much time do you actually have to commit to the business every single week? And then once you get that much client work, then probably what I would do is I would take your max time minus 5 hours. That means you'll have 5 hours buffer just in case like it takes you a little bit of time to like bring on your team members. So by the time you're at max capacity, you can start bringing on that additional team member, and you can be able to kind of like go from there, and you won't have to like stop, slow down, and like wait for like 6 months before you can like keep growing. Okay, that's how I'd be thinking about the staff account. Now from the staff account too, from the time you start, I'd be in like different communities. I'd be networking with other accountants and bookkeepers, so you can kind of get an understanding of who would potentially be a good fit to do some subcontracting from you, from being your first, assistant or your first staff accountant. Right, and just really putting that in place. Next thing is just really understand like the different tools and software you should be running when you're running the business at scale. So at what point are you going to get a CRM? At what point will you get practice management software? At what point will you maybe automate some of your social media output and content so that you don't have to do much of the work yourself, right? When will you use certain things like AI to be able to do some of the accounting work for you, right? And just having that plan of action in place is going to be very critical because, again, really maintaining the business is more about like how can we continue to grow towards our revenue goal while still having the best client experience possible and not overwhelming ourselves too much. If we can do that, then we're good. It's super simple, super easy. Okay? Now, all this stuff we talked about is very hard. Like just being completely honest with you, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, dude, this is so easy. Like you can do this and like you're gonna be at 6 figures a year like instantaneously. No, it's gonna take you some time. And if you're doing this for the first time on your own, it's gonna take even more time. Like it's just what it is. Now, the unfortunate part is that no matter what business you do, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's a marketing agency, bookkeeping business, starting a law firm, it's going to take you time to get things ironed out and moving. The best things in life take time. Now, it doesn't have to take you as much time if you get help and work with someone who already is where you're trying to go, because then that person can like pull you up a lot faster and move you to where they are within like a fraction of the time. So it still will take time, but it's going to take you a fraction of what it would take if you were doing this stuff on your own. So if you want help and you want to cut down the time it takes to go and find success, go ahead and click the link inside the description above or below the video to book a call with myself to see if I can help you like in our mentorship program. Now, again, this is really for people where it's like you know what you want. You have a clear outcome, a clear goal, where it's like maybe you want to spend more time with your family, right? Because like maybe you've been working super hard, you've been climbing the corporate ladder, and as your kids are getting older, you kind of realize you only have so much time with your children. They're only going to be babies one time, right? And you know that if you're going to really have a relationship with them before they go off to college or before they go off to the real world, the only way to do that is by having your own business. So you can really set your own hours, you can be at home with them, you can really choose your own adventure in your own life. So if you think there's some value there and you really want to go after what you want in life, go ahead and click the link inside the description, book the call, let's see if I can help you. Maybe your goal is to be able to travel more, right? I know for me, that was one thing that I really liked doing and I really wanted to do, right? And when I started my business, I finally had the opportunity to do that once I was able to quit my job. But for most people, like if you never get your business up to a certain size, you're never going to be able to quit because now you have a business and you have your job. And usually your job only gives you a few weeks a year of vacation time. So you want to be able to travel or spend some more time with your family, click the link inside the description, book the call. I'll see you there, okay? Have a good rest of your day. Take it easy. Talk to you soon.